Hello and welcome back to Sense Making in a Changing World. I'm Morag Gamble. If you're a regular listener, you know this show is usually conversations with wonderful people from around the world doing incredible transformative work. But through January, I'm doing something different. For short solo episodes, just you and me. Across this series, we'll follow one thread through four themes: why permaculture matters, how we design for healthy human habitats, how education becomes cultural repair, and how livelihoods can stay aligned with care. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm speaking with you today from Yinibara and Gubbi Gubbi country. I would like to pay my respects to elders, past and present, and to all First Nations people listening. This is episode 2 of my January solo series. In episode 1, we explored why permaculture matters right now and how positive change tends to spread through small connected actions. Today, we're talking about design, permaculture design, and in particular, how design shapes healthy human habitats. When I use the word design in permaculture, I'm talking about something responsive and contextual, grounded in place and always in motion. Design isn't a glossy master plan on paper. It isn't static or fixed, and it's definitely not something that only experts do. We are all interacting with and shaping our landscapes all the time, like every species does. Sometimes it feels like we've forgotten this basic skill because we've become disconnected from nature. The permaculture principles and processes help us to relearn how to do this with care, how to work with the web of life in a concentric way so we can become positive contributors. Practivists, as the Perma say, positive, practical permaculture activists. Permaculture design begins with observation, with noticing, with curiosity, with actually falling in love with the place we call home, and then asking, how do I show up here as a kind human? How do I design in service of life? How we show up matters. Our intentions matter. At home in the eco-village where I live, the main village source of water available for gardens is pumped from the river. But I know there's platypus living there, and we're in such a beautiful, intact upper river catchment. I don't want to extract that water, so I've designed instead that my garden is full of hardy perennials that need less water, and that my garden areas are consolidated into small spaces that are terraced and swaled to collect the water as it falls on the land. The remaining area that I look after is being rewilded as a forest, as meadow. Just because we have access to water or land doesn't mean we have to use it. Design yourself to have the smallest possible footprint. I see myself as one of the many species that dwells in the land that I tend, and I'm so in love with this way of being. My intention is to regenerate this degraded land and to create healthy habitat for the humans and non-human species. And so much has changed in the 20-odd years that I've been here. I've noticed a migratory stormbird has been coming back to the same mulberry tree for 15 years now. It's not my tree anymore, and I actually recognise that it never was. Kangaroo and wallaby families live in the garden and have generations that have grown there. I was even inducted into the Wallaby Mothers Club. When my eldest son Hugh was a baby, I carried him everywhere in a sling, and we spent a lot of time outside in the garden. One day, a wallaby mother with a big baby in her pouch came closer. We said hello, and then to my absolute surprise, she opened her pouch, something that I've never seen her do before, and in a gesture like, "Here's my baby, show me yours," I opened my pouch to my sling and introduced Hugh to them. We stayed like that in what felt like an eternity. We stayed like that for what seemed like an eternity. And then as Hugh started to move around a bit, the little baby wallaby would actually come up to him and they'd just sit together and sometimes just kind of come together and touch noses. That was it. Both wild creatures in their garden habitats. People often ask me, how do I describe permaculture to someone who's never heard of it before? I usually start with something like this. Permaculture is designed for one planet living. Did you know that if everyone lived like a typical Australian or American, we would need 4 or 5 Earths to meet our demands and absorb our waste? It's a little bit obvious to say, but we only have one planet. And the way we live doesn't just affect us. It eats into the possibilities for people elsewhere, for future generations, for other species to thrive too. And this is where the ethics of permaculture come in. Earth care, people care, and fair share. They are the guides of good design in permaculture. So as well as describing as one planet way of living, I might also describe permaculture as designed for regeneration, designed for living well within limits, and designed for healthy human habitats. And yes, the phrase healthy human habitats puts humans at the centre. So let's name that. Most of the problems we're trying to address sit right here in human habitats. How we feed ourselves, where our water comes from, what we do with our waste, how we power our lives, how we house ourselves, how we move about. So the question becomes, how do we reimagine and redesign the way we live so that we can beautifully live within planetary boundaries in ways that are socially and ecologically just? And that is the work of permaculture. The best way to learn this is close to home, in places that you know, with people that you know, where it matters and where you feel like you have the capacity to contribute. It does take time. It isn't something you can magically learn in a couple of weeks. It's a practice. It takes time. It helps to be part of a community of practice then, a living, learning community of people who are also asking these questions and learning as they go. And also, there's no one right way. There's no perfect permaculture design. Good solutions usually come from extended conversations with place, nature, culture, people, and yourself. Design influences everyday decisions that shape how we live, the impact our lives have on the places and communities we dwell in. It's noticing where the water moves, where the sun and shade sit in the seasons, where the path wants to be, what's within easy reach of the kitchen, and how we invite habitat back into our everyday places. Where does the water go when it rains? Where is it hottest? Where does the cool hold? Where do people naturally pause and connect? Design starts with attention, with noticing and with listening to place. Design is not separate from life. It's the way we engage with the conditions of life. And whether we realize it or not, we're doing it all the time. It's easy to hear the word design and think, where do I put things? How will it look? Permaculture design begins earlier than that. It's pattern literacy in action. It starts by reading how a place works, what flows through it, what gets stuck, what escapes, what is flourishing, what's being depleted. And then come the small, careful adjustments that change the direction of the system over time in that particular context. That's why permaculture design is not only spatial, it's also social. It shapes how we live together, how we share, how we belong, how we support each other to keep going. And it shows up in some very ordinary ways. In comfort, for example, a bit of shade where you actually sit, a breeze that can move through a house, a place to pause in summer. These choices change how a day feels. It shows up in access too. Who can move through a space with ease and dignity? Whether a child can roam safely, whether an older person can walk without fear of falling, whether someone with a pram or a wheelchair can get in and take part without effort or embarrassment. And design can quietly include people or quietly exclude them. And then there's waste. In living systems, waste is usually a resource in the wrong place. A design can send nutrients out to a wheelie bin, or it can cycle them back through compost. It can let rain rush away and erode soil, or slow it, soak it, and store it in the landscape. It can treat grey water as a problem, or offer it as hydration for trees. Design also shapes connection. Some places invite people to meet, to sit under a tree, a front veranda, a shared edge where you naturally pause and say hello. It shapes habitat, whether there's food and shelter for insects and birds, whether soil life is fed or starved, and whether there are flowering plants through the seasons. Once you start seeing design in this way, you can feel how much it matters. And yes, beauty and grace absolutely matter, but design goes deeper than looks. And design choices add up. Quietly, incrementally, over years. They shape comfort, health, resilience, belonging, and biodiversity, and they either regenerate a place or they slowly wear it down. The good news is that you don't have to overhaul your whole life to begin. Most of the time, the first changes are small. They're close to home, they're practical, they're the next caring step you can actually take. All of this is why permaculture begins with the ethics of care, with an invitation to observe before we act. These ethics, earth care, people care, and fair share. They aren't slogans, they're a compass, a way to check in with ourselves over and over as we make our choices. Now, if this is the kind of work that you feel drawn to, but you're not sure you know enough yet, don't worry, permaculture design is learnable. It's not about being naturally gifted in it. You don't need a degree. It's a practice. You learn it the way you learn anything real, by doing it, by getting good guidance, by seeing examples, by being in conversation with others who are practicing too. And if you'd like to go deeper with this, January is the one time I'm offering something new. I brought together all of our core programs in one bundle called the Permaculture Educators Complete Collection. It's available only from the 7th to the 31st of January. So the complete collection includes lifetime access to the Permaculture Educators program, which includes a full Permaculture Design Certificate and the Permaculture Teacher Certificate, plus bonus permaculture business modules. You'll also get a lifetime access to Share Permaculture and the incredible Edible Garden. Those two are only available inside this complete collection and not offered separately. And you'll be invited to join our global learning community, The Hive, for a year. And so you're held by a living community of practice while you're learning. If you'd like to take a look at the details, you can find them all on our website at permacultureeducationinstitute.org. The link is in the show notes. And if you'd like to have a chat with me, you can either book a time to Zoom call with me or just email me and I'd be happy to respond to your questions. Even if you're not ready to start, you have lifetime access, so you can register now and get this big bundle and start when you're ready. There's no due dates. You can start and stop as you need, and there's no prerequisites either. If you're a beginner, that's where we start. If you're already very familiar with permaculture, your experience with the course is in deepening and extending your design practice and enhancing your leadership and education skills. I'm here to help you get the most out of this course wherever you're at with permaculture. So to close, here's a practice for this week. Take a slow walk through one place you spend time in every day. Your garden, your street, your workplace, perhaps a local park. Notice one relationship that's calling for attention. Maybe it's shade and seating, a hotspot that needs cover. Maybe it's water and soil runoff that could be caught instead of lost. Perhaps it's food and community, a space that could grow both. Or maybe it's habitat and corridor, a few plants that could invite birds and insects back into daily life. Choose one relationship and make one small change that you can complete within a week and notice what shifts. Thank you for being here and listening today. Next week, we'll talk about education and how permaculture becomes cultural repair through the way we learn and the way we share what we're practicing. Remember, living is learning. Keep practicing hope and keep myceliating possibilities. Until next week, take care. Bye.